I want to start off the video by saying that it's true, hatches are dying. They've been killed off as all car manufacturers have had to put their money in SUVs. SUVs are safer than hot hatches, they're bigger, and they get relatively the same fuel or gas mileage as, your hottest hatches. Although when putting in the factor that the utility is marginally better and the sacrifices of road comfort and other factors are pretty terrible, I would much rather have a hot hatch. But sadly, all the big ones, all killed off one by one their hot hatches. Now, I saw this happening when I was a kid because I saw that the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo died. Then the WRX STI was slowly dying. Basically, they halted their sales and didn't want to revive the motor, so it was an obvious one. But the big one that really hurt was the Ford Focus no longer being in production while I was in high school, as well as the RS fully died in Europe, and now even the ST is dead. I think they only have the ST line, and even that I think is only applicable to certain like SUV based, the Fiesta SUV or whatever the hell. Renault is killing off their Sport RS and their other Trophy or Meganes. All that's pretty much disappearing. Hyundai is basically quietly discontinued their Veloster. They made a lot of noise with this Veloster thing. The Veloster N was pretty awesome as a first car and directly competed with the Type R. And then they put in the drivetrain into the Elantra, and then they started killing off the Veloster as it was only really possible to sell off the lot when they were cheaper than the Elantra, but overall the Elantra would just sell way faster. And even the Elantra, the Elantra N is basically next to nowhere in terms of sales where they used to be for the sedans. Volkswagen completely stopping the Golf production. This was a couple years ago. The Golf R is still kind of going, but it's only a matter of time. They're saying that the last hurrah they would put in a 5-cylinder in the Golf, but that is, needless to say, it may not happen at all. And the Honda Civic Type R completely stopping its European sales, as well as they have not released a Type R since 22 or 20, actually I think 21 in Canada, so it's only a matter of time that they kill it off as well. So all of that to say that there's still some hope. The hot hatch is still an excellent car when you look at the utility for your money, as well as compared to other cars in its class or in its actual like microeconomic class. And there are really a lot of great little hot hatches that have come out in the past. Some of them blazingly fast, some of them just absolutely amazing to drive. And it would be just a shame if we let them go without learning a lesson. A lot of these, as a Canadian, I've not been able to actually enjoy, but for the hot few minutes that I've been able to drive the ones that I have been able to enjoy, these were awesome cars. A lot of my friends had some hatchbacks and whatnot, and I think the one that had the most impact as a kid was a Type R, since in high school a lot of Type R drivers would drive around town, zip around town, and we would get to chase them. And they were quite fast, but I think the big thing was that I would imagine that the drive was much better than my Toyota Corolla. And the last great car, the great hatchback, is probably the GR Yaris, and the sad excuse of the GR Corolla not being as great as the Yaris. And it's just sad to see them go away, but what we can do is we can imagine what would life be like if we built our own. And I'm an excellent automation developer. I have been building automation cars for almost a decade now, and I have a lot of expertise. I've really gone it down to a science, and I understand what the people want. So today we're going to be building something crazy, and something that will truly be a replacement to all those beautiful hatchbacks. So we're going to start with the body. And what I like to do is I like to build a car that is absolutely legendary in terms of body style. So I like to use one of these kind of like BMW-esque body styles. Looks like a 1 Series. In fact, the 1 Series is probably my favorite hatchback that we never got here. So we'll go with this guy. I'm just scared that it might get expensive fast if I go all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. So maybe we'll go with something smaller and a bit more utilitarian. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, that is way too big. Okay, no, we won't go with that. These would be pretty cool hatchbacks if we could. I've always had a keen eye for greater cars, bigger cars. See, this is like a Toyota Matrix. We don't want that. That's when they really ruin the hatchback. We want something better than that. Better than ourselves, maybe. Better than what we could imagine. Nonetheless, where's that hatchy? You know, maybe we should chop off some wheelbase. That would help. We're gonna put it real small, 2.4. There you go. Oh yeah. Oh yep. There you go. So let's make our hatchback tiny, tiny, tiny. Yes, sir. That's a hatchback if I've ever seen one. Oh yeah. I think we're gonna go with this one. And here's the logic here. We want a hatchback to be extremely dynamic and probably a little bit aerodynamic to allow for those top speeds. We're not looking for something that's just utilitarian. And I feel like this build, although here you would chop off a lot of the space, what we'll make up with is we'll put the motor in front wheel drive, and then in here we'll try to build some sort of suspension geometry that doesn't require any side to side linkages. Just like an old Volkswagen Beetle, which in my opinion really started off the wave. And if we want to build something smart, we'll probably want... Oh, that would... Oh. Wouldn't that be swell? If we put it mid-transverse like a Beetle. I don't think we have the space for it. And then it would just turn into a mini Porsche. We don't want that. Let's put it mid-transverse. And the logic here is that most hatchbacks are mid-transverse. I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and then the front is going to be double wishbone. And the rear is where it's really important that we get something that is extremely small. So let's look at the materials. Take out the body. Okay. So you see, usually we need a lot of space in the rear to fit your suspension. But if we chop down the suspension, we use something like a double wishy. In real life, we could move the suspension, the side-to-side suspension bits, like this one here and this one here, and we could really drop it down low. And then that would mean a lot more space in the rear for everything else. And with double wishbone, you also get pretty decent front-to-back geometry when you pair it up. The only problem is bottoming out your vehicle. That is actually quite dangerous. The other option is we could go push rod, and from the underside of the hatchback, you would see the push rods, and I think that would be really, really cool. But last I checked, I think that it would be unreasonable because I feel like it would be more expensive. No, I guess not. And the reason is that usually if you build a chassis from the ground up with pushrod, it's actually not much more expensive than double wishbone. The only difference is your actual suspension shocks will be much more expensive. That's why like Magnaride is one of those big companies that build shocks, and companies let them do whatever they want because they understand that if the shock company is actually building the suspension geometry, then you don't have to take the accrued debt with it. Now, I don't want it to look like a new Mini at all. I want it to look a little bit of its own beast. And we like wide body on this channel. I don't know, I don't care what you like, but we like wide body. And the logic here is with really large wides and rear, double wishbone suspension in the rear, what we could do is we could kind of let this wheel come off and you would get a really nice drift sensation when driving. So I think that's beneficial. Now, if this was a kind of like mini GTR, I would probably make it very short, a very short cabin. But because we want a utilitarian car, we're going to actually lengthen the cabin here. And another thing is we got to consider if we want rear passengers or not. Now, usually I would say, well, what the heck, we won't have any rear passengers. But here's my logic here. Because it's a hatchback, I feel like it's kind of a necessity that people can actually get inside and actually even just like having a dog in the back is a huge convenience for hatchback owners. So that's why we're gonna do it that way. Now, I want a wing, but I don't know if I want the stock wing because I like the idea to put on an extra wing later on. So I think we're just gonna flatten it out. Now, I'm scared that I'm going to make it look like a Tesla when I flatten out, like the new Model Ys. But let's just keep it like that. Keep it willy-nilly here. And I think that the door size makes sense. And we're not going to get into crazy geometry with the door. Now, do we want a stubby nose or do we want an elongated nose? That's a good, valid question. I think we're going to put an elongated nose. And the reasoning here is it's a hatchback. You're probably going to be seated a little bit higher up. And if we get this slant nose here, you can actually easily see what's going on in the front, as well as it's more beautiful in proportions and it's going to be likely more aerodynamic. So I think that's a good combo. Just a very sporty look of the car, very tiny car though. And so it'll be able to compete with other hatchbacks, but also with some cooler cars like a Miata. If it's a good Miata competitor, we'll definitely get some people on board. Now for the headlights. We're just going to build the headlights for now, but later on we could put some more stuff. Oh yeah, big headlights. I like that look. Oh yeah, that's a great looking car. I like my cars when they look like whales that eat the tarmac, like sharks almost. That's a very good look on the car actually. But what if we went with some, oh no, that's too Suzuki. No, I don't like that. Let's keep this look for now, and let's put a grill so we get some inspiration. It's very important that you get that smile, if you're trying to build a car, if you want some inspiration, to put in the components that you know will inspire the most, and this is one of them. Oh wow, that's a bit too McLaren. I actually kind of like it. Let's see if we can mold it in a little better and see if it would actually work. Oh, well, now it's really a crooked smile, isn't it? Let's put it more in the center. Oh jeez. Oh, what did I do to this poor car? Okay, let's look. Oh, it's demonic. Absolutely demonic. I don't think this will do at all. Let's change it to something else. I feel like a lot of these are very similar. Oh, wow. That surprisingly changed the look quite a lot. Okay, and then we won't we'll consider this a secondary grille. Sometimes you can get away with these weirdo front mounted grills if you put something a little clever in the middle, like this. This is actually quite good, but I don't think it'll do for now. We need something big and bulky. Oh, and then we could call it the red nose. Let's not do that. Let's do something a bit more serious. Although this would be a really fun car. I'm sure a lot of people can agree. This is the LS 500 look, kind of. And I never liked it. I always thought it was dumb. And now, if we invert it, no, it's still really too stupid. You can't get away with these things. Like, there's just some looks that, you know, you can't kid yourself. You can't do a BMW and pretend that everybody's gonna like it and give it 20 years. Give it 20 years when most of our cars are rusted out in the parking lots, and then people will like them. That's no good for us. We're a serious brand. We know what our customers like when we're done with it. This is something I like to play with, is the Pontiac look. Pontiac just had it down back in the 70s. It's almost as if people love the hawkness of their front ends, and they're able to just mold it in effortlessly, and it looks very aerodynamic, even though it's not really doing anything. And actually, in this case, it actually works really, really well. And I think if I was building a supercar, I would probably put that in. Although I'm not much of a supercar guy, I'm not gonna lie. I think that the supercar guy doesn't do very much with his car, and it's kind of pointless to build supercars overall. I think I like this look. The fins and the slight laser-like cut through the grille is actually quite nice. And I think this would make sense as a hatchback. I think we're gonna keep it for now. Now, usually, I put a lot of hood scoops and stuff on the front of the car, and I think in this case we're not gonna do that. We're gonna focus on more side vents than an actual hood scoop, because it's too much of a serious front end for now. So I'm just gonna put in 2 more vents, and then we'll go towards the next step, which is obviously the motor. The motor is the most important part. I don't really care for the look usually. I only spend about, I would say, 10-15 minutes on the front end, and then I go towards the real serious part, which is the motor. The motor is the heart of the car. That's for sure. You cannot build a car without a good motor, and I've learned that lesson the hard way. I bought a Miata and I liked it at first, but it got too repetitive. The motor didn't ring the right way, and the power, it was just not there. And so I bought a Mustang because it was just more fun, and it was easier to, it was just as easy to work on, is what it is. Oh, I actually like that. I know it looks like, you know, like kawaii cheeks or something like that, but I actually like that. I think it works with this grill here. If I move it down. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay. That is going to be the front end for now. I might move these more so that they work with this line here. And I'm going to have just like a little H section right here, and then, but we'll do that later. Okay. Next is the motor. So we're going to go with a 4-wheel drive. No, front-wheel drive. And I think for now that'll work. And we're going to go with a new motor. Oh, I like how it chose Opel. Opel is a really old brand. I think we'll actually go with that, and we'll build a hatchy coupe. Okay? And the motor tech is going to be a 2015 tech. Now, here's the thing. We could do it either way. We could either build something that is logical, or we could build something from the heart. And another thing is we could build something that maxes out the power, or we could build something that requires a bit of ringing, but it has more spirit, a motor that has more spirit. And I think we're gonna head towards a motor that has quite a lot of spirit, and that's actually fun to ring out, but has the torque down low. And so we could go with something a little bit more exotic and get away with it, because we'll just build it really small. So we could build something like a V8, and that would fill it all the way up. In fact, I think it would be too big. And we could build it somewhat heavy, like so. And then we could shrink it quite a lot. In fact, we could shrink it a lot if we build a very tight cam system. And I think that with this and a turbocharger for the top end, I think that would be a winning combination. So let me do some quick math. Because you see, usually I build V8s. Okay, so it's about a 3.4 liter. So that actually makes a lot of sense, because as you know, this is what the Taurus show did, was build this like kind of like slant V8 with overhead cam, and they built very tight 4 valves per cylinder system. This was built by Yamaha, so actually it makes perfect sense that we use this. And we're gonna use this more performance oriented, but not totally crazy. And you'll notice that I'm doing a very short stroke build, and that's because I have a tendency of building more so stroker motors when I want lots of torque. This is not going to be a very torquey V8, although it is a V8, so in that way it's good. It says that it still doesn't fit. That's no fun. Maybe we could shrink it. Okay. And there you have it. Okay, so something like that, 168. I think that's too small for our purposes. Let me check. That would be a very small, that would be a very tiny motor, isn't it? Yeah, 2.9. That's a bit too tiny, isn't it? It's a little tiny. Let's see, engine fitment. Let's try to really maximize the displacement here. Oh, it's really too big. It just won't fit at that level. Now, usually I would just go with a shorter drivetrain. Oh my goodness. We filled it to the brim here. Okay, here you go. Well, hold on. Mine was bigger earlier, wasn't it? What did I do? What did I do this time? I'll shrink it a little bit more. It looks like we're gonna have a stroker motor. I'm not a fan of that. But at least we could get some displacement. There you go, 202. That's actually quite good. But it's quite a stroker motor actually. Let's try it and see what happens. So in the later tabs we'll be able to see. And we're gonna really try to focus on an extremely well built, all forged V8, because we want to really push that motor. And we can even overbore it. There you go. We'll just overbore it. And that'll really get us the sweet displacement that we're gonna need. What's a 220? It's quite large, I feel like. It's like a 3. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that'll be plenty for what we're doing here. Now, usually I would just go with a V6 and build a shrunk V6. That would be probably pretty smart. But I'm an exotic guy. I've always been quite exotic. I don't like these, trumpet-like V6s. And we're gonna go with some counterweights. We don't really need much because it's a V8. And so we'll be very efficient. We're gonna go with VVT. Now, usually I also like to put VVL, but the turbo is gonna act like a VVL, so we're not gonna have to do that. And I'm gonna put in some revs, although I'm not sure. It may not rev as much as we're hoping. The turbo might have to work harder. We won't put in the turbo just yet. We'll put in a decent... Oh, what the heck just happened here? That's not normal. We'll put in a decent simple system. This one will do because we'll be able to put in the turbocharger in there. This one is just too large, so we'll put in a single. We're gonna go here, and we're just gonna have regular with a race manifold. We're not too concerned about emissions, but it may be a problem. We'll put in the tubulars. Now, usually, this would likely be way too big, but we're getting away with it because we built a very big front end, and so we're gonna be very front end heavy, unfortunately. And we're gonna try to be somewhat quiet because actually we can actually get away with a little less quietness since we're gonna go with a big turbo. The turbochargers, they naturally make it very quiet. And what we see here is we're already pushing the boundaries of what it means to have a hatchback. We're making 300 horsepower almost. Now, this motor is going to be really a total build. So we're going to put in our turbocharger. It's going to be a big single. And so we're going to have to probably put in more in the bottom end. So what did I do here? We're going to need better crank. Oh, that's surprising. So we'll use forged steel heavy. And then we'll drop the RPMs a little bit. There you go. We're already making 400 horsepower. I mean, that's insane. That's really insane. We'll put in a variable because it's important to have kind of like the bottom end workout. Oh, jeez. We're really pushing the limit on this motor, eh? This motor is not built for this. There you go. Much better. So, yeah, it is a bit of a rev happy motor, but not the most rev happy ever. You know, like 67 is not great. Here, 7,000. It's acceptable for a V8. The block is not very strong. I'm actually surprised about that because, yeah, I used a very strong block. What if I use like a little bit stronger? No. What about a magnesium? No, that won't do. I'm very surprised. I'm using aluminum heavy and it's not happy. It's because I have a short stroke, and it's overboard, I believe. If I shrink it, yeah, that's why. So okay, we'll just keep the bore regular. And 210 is gonna be our CI. So I think it's a 3.4, 3.5, and the crank is still not happy, but we'll have to make do. We're making already 400 horsepower without no turbo upgrades. So let's crank in the power. Now, the main purpose here is we need to make sure our general engine efficiency is good, our weight is good, and the responsiveness is good. Now, the responsiveness is a little low, so we'll have to fix that. The reliability is okay, it's acceptable. The cost is pretty bad actually for a motor, but what do you expect, right? So we're gonna add up. We're gonna add up some of the variables. We want to have some responsiveness, but Actually, when you drop the responsiveness a little bit, it makes it a bit more exciting for people. So what we're going to do is we're going to up the compressor to have low RPM, and that will create a lot of responsiveness. Now the reliability is not great. There you go, much better. And another factor is we need to make sure that our AR ratio, that's the air, I don't remember, the turbine air ratio, is acceptable, and then we can crank the boost really. By God. 430 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. I mean, this is insane. These are some stout numbers. Let's try to allow for better performance here, because I'm seeing that the reliability is really bad. I think the reliability is just going down because we're making too much power for the block. That's acceptable. There you go. That should do. Now we see we have pretty much all the variables working in our favor. Let's tune a little bit our timing. This motor really likes time, it looks like. It just keeps making power. So with turbos, it's important that you get fuel, but the thing is that it helps with reliability to just put a little bit more richness. As you can see, like now we're at 68. It's just that it affects the engine efficiency a lot usually. And what doesn't help is like we have some fairly crazy exhausts and things like this in the motor. So when you play with the exhaust, yeah, you're getting a lot more power, but it also kills your block overall reliability. Now this is like a necessity. If you don't take care of your block, I mean, it's over. Like you're not gonna be able to really work on this engine at all. So we're gonna have to drop the boost, drop the actual displacement, so we can have more space for the power. Let's say 445. That's actually quite good. And then we could just up the exhaust manifold quite a lot. The exhaust is a single now. That's true. And here's another thing. The turbos don't really care about your header size too much. It's the header size. The only problem is if you put a too small header size, you're gonna be creating too much heat. That's about it. Now, because we have a smaller motor now, we can kind of up the boost a little bit. Oh, sorry, I didn't even notice that affects the... Oh, wow, compressor surcharge. Larger turbine. There you go. These variable geometries are pretty finicky. Okay, there you go. So I think we'll keep it at like that, making sure that all the variables are okay. So we're still at about 25% engine efficiency. The weight is acceptable. Like I'm gonna assume a 3,000 pound car, so that's okay. Like a 400, 500 pound lump is acceptable. I mean, I would rather be under 400, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. The responsiveness is okay. I saw it all the way up to 17, but you know, what am I gonna do? And the loudness is acceptable. Let's actually check how loud it is. I like the sound. Now let's look at how much the if I went to direct injection and I went twin? Did that affect anything? Oh, wow. Oh, even the power is too big now. The weight has increased. Let's just keep it down low. Let's keep it down low, actually, because over 500 horsepower on two wheels is actually quite hard to put the power down without some significant, disadvantages. This motor is going to be a winning combination here. So we're going to save this motor. I really like it, actually. It's a good motor. I don't know what to call it. It's a show. It's a show motor. Now for the beauty of this build. This is going to be a direct Type R competitor. And so if it's a direct Type R competitor, we're just going to put in a manual 6-speed. The problem with that is there aren't any real manuals nowadays, transaxles, that will actually handle that amount of power these days. So, in our little fantasy world here, we're going to assume that the manufacturer decided to go with a truck manufacturer such as Aisin and built a shrunken heavy-duty truck transmission. And this has happened before many times. Jeep's transmission used to be a shrunken truck, a 3/4 ton truck gear ratio transmission that they then shrunk down and had to repatent. So that's what we'll assume. I'm not sure about the gearing yet or anything like that. I just don't know the calculations by heart. We'll try to use a clutched race transmission, differential, and that should help with putting the power down in the front. It's really important in the front because when you're in a corner, you usually still need a bit of torque. So you need to have a good differential so you can put the power down equally on both tires. That's a little trick. On rear ends, when you put the power down in the rear, you can actually get away with a lower quality differential and still put the power down acceptably in the corners. So that's why, like, a lot of companies, they'll build a front wheel drive like utility car, and then when they go racing, they forget about it and they start building rear wheel drive. So we will start with basic radials, sports. That's supposed to be the Pilot Sport 4S or whatever, and we're gonna have to go very big. So 255 is quite big. 265, I believe, is ginormous for a front wheel drive. Like if we look at the Civic Type R, I believe they're only that's perfect. That's actually perfect. So actually we could get away with this 265 since some other companies are getting away with it. And that's right, all companies like to have a shorter rear tire width. You get away with it because you basically are never using the rear tires for anything other than basic traction. So that's actually quite good. And if I understand it correctly, you do want to have locked in diameters as well. And with what they did with the Type R is that they put in very large rims with very thin tires because they wanted the wishbone geometry to do all the work and not the actual tire bounce. In our situation, we kind of want the same thing, but our geometry is going to be very different from what the Type R has. For starters, we're going to have very wide a front, and the rear is going to remain almost the same, so that we have this kind of like front heavy, almost bulldog like look. Big front, small little legs in the rear, although they aren't that small actually, but you get that kind of that feeling when you're looking at it that the front end is doing all the work, which is acceptable. And we're going to use some forged aluminums. What a lot of companies have been doing for quite a while now, about 20 years, is they outsource the rims on their sport model to another company, and that company now has the rights to the rim. So if they build a really nice rim, people interchange them with different cars. So for instance, Saab, they went with, or sorry, Subaru went with like NK, I believe, and then NK started selling that rim to other companies and for other cars. Next is the discs. So we're gonna go with vented discs just for starters. And we should probably change the discs right now so they look very nice. So I like to do that a little later because I just don't know what the car is gonna look like in the end. But if we change the rims to something very beautiful, like, oh, that is very ugly. Something a little bit more beautiful. No, that looks like a spider. Oh, I like that actually. I actually quite like it. It's like halfway between Tron and a Trans Am car. I really like that. Okay, we'll go with this. So now we kind of know what we want to go with. We can put the vented discs in. Now here's the thing, automation just doesn't make disc sizes quite good. So I like to go with a larger disc than what like I would technically in real life go with. I would probably go with like something maybe half this size. We don't need like this big 400 millimeter, but automation just makes them look too small, so you might as well go bigger. And obviously we're gonna put in rear brakes as well. Now with this car, we're gonna assume that in a corner, the rear end will step out quite a lot, and so you'll have to hit the brakes a lot, and so we'll put big rear brakes to kind of help with that rotation, the rotational mass. That's actually very important, something that people don't really consider anymore. And then we're just going to put in a sport under tray. I don't even think you can see it in the game. Yeah, you can't even see it. But basically the sport under tray, what it is it has some vents and it has some movement, but it's not a full race diffuser. Like the diffuser is actually going to be gigantic, and usually it has adaptive areas on the car. And another thing, we do want a wing on this car. I heard a long time ago that wings don't do anything for the rear end of a front wheel drive car. And that's actually not entirely accurate. It does do something, like for instance in the corner. So in corners you do want to have some sort of wing, because you're trying to keep those wheels flat to the ground. So having a wing is actually quite useful. It's just that there's not that much of a use case because you're not accelerating with your rear wing. So actually the drag coefficient is quite bad compared to the advantage. So that's why a lot of rally cars will have these wings, even though not many rally cars have to be. They're basically front heavy, or like basically a front wheel drive. They still have the wing. They're just not using it as much. I don't know what to do with the wing. I just gotta put one in. Boy, oh boy, there's a lot of ugly wings in this game, eh? What about like a tiny wing like that? What does that look like? Oh, just horrible. Great choice. Okay, I think that'll do for now. Yeah, it's not great, but I guess that'll do. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's go back to the arrow. Okay, the arrow works. Active wing. Perfect. Now, there's actually a lot of exotic innovations that have happened in the last couple years that would really benefit this car. For one thing, is the new active turbine um, downforce. If you put one in a really big one in the back, that'd be really beneficial actually. We would probably get enough downforce that we wouldn't need any wing at all, and this car would probably reach the 500 horsepower upper top speed limit. But the thing is because it's utilitarian, I mean that would take up most of the space that we need for our luggage, so we're not going to do that. Now I'm still sold on the rack and pinions. I love rack and pinions; they're really good. But if I were a company and I saw the added cost, it's something like 75% more expensive, I would probably go variable electric today. But if I could somehow inherit the rack and pinion of yesteryear, I would just do that. And I think a lot of my builds in the future will use that kind of logic. We're gonna use traction control. We're gonna need it, but we'll try to keep it to a minimum. And then here's the thing: I don't know anything about springs in terms of these categories. I only know like really the basics, which is like I know what air suspension is. Like I know this term, I just don't know how it differs from the progressive. I don't know what a progressive is, and I also don't know what these actives are. I guess the damper explains it. You got your gas. So we'll go with hydropneumatic. I'm surprised there's no magna ride here. There's no like magnetic, pneumatic. Oh boy, I hope I didn't crash it. You should have saved. Mom, I crashed automation. So, I restarted it and got all the little settings right, all the nooks and nannies. So what we have so far is a 2,350 pound hot hatch. I haven't really changed the look of it yet. With 25 miles per gallon, which is very good for a V8, for a turbo V8. The 6-speed is not adjusted. It's currently gear limited to about 197 miles per hour. That is incredible. The aero is not optimized. I'll optimize it later. I'm gonna assume it's gonna have some understeer, although I think I can adjust most of this understeer. It really depends how much craziness we want on this car. I think that it's better to go with a sleek design than to go with an all-out track design. Although, yeah, these rims, looking at them now, they kind of look like GTD rims if you think about it. But I don't want that, so we're not gonna do that. I kept all the settings. I've kept them fairly normal. I've decided to go with hydropneumatic because any other spring setting just didn't really give me that load capacity. I really want to keep that load capacity high because again, it's a utilitarian car. It's not like just like a frontline track car, although it can do 200 miles an hour. That's pretty crazy. So if we were to kind of increase the top gear a little bit, and look how just insane some of these figures are right now in terms of the acceleration. It's just ridiculous. It's just like very violent first gear. There's absolutely no grip. And the weight distribution goes all the way to goes more and more to the rear, right? So it may be that the first gear is not usable. I don't think it can be usable at all, no matter what. If I were to drop the first gear, I think we're just going to get more violence, eh? Yeah, you can't really... What are you going to do, right? So one thing that obviously I'm going to have to play with is maybe get some much larger wheels, like 285s. And just for retrospective, 285s, that's like a GT 350's rear wheel. It's very, very big. And that's just so that we can actually provide enough grip for this guy, because ain't no way right now. That is way too violent. Basically no amount of power in first gear is going to cut it, actually. Like, gear 1 is also quite long, and it still doesn't really work. I don't know what to do. Like, usually I would probably put in all-wheel drive, but again, I want to keep the car somewhat simple to build. I mean, right now we're at $18,000 to build, so this would be like a $50,000 car. That's very expensive. Now, you are getting quite a lump of power. Obviously, if it was me, I would put an LS motor, or even maybe an Audi motor, something like that. But at the moment, we're an Opel company. We kind of want to build our own motor. It's not the most expensive motor to build, although look how big it is. It literally pushes out all the way to the front. If we were to take off the body right now, and we'll just take off. I mean, it's crammed in there. It is definitely crammed in there. It's quite a large motor. They decided to put it a front-mounted turbo. That's acceptable. But we didn't do any favors by going with a single inlet. And it basically, all the tubing just goes in the wheels and stuff, so it's not really smart. Not the smartest design I've ever built, that's for sure. The intercooler really kicks up. What I would do in real life is I would probably basically move the intercooler to be more in the front, kind of like just under the turbo, and then I would probably move this lump all the way to the back. That would be logical, although it will make the transaxle a little complicated, pretty close to the driver, and so you would probably have between the actual front window and where you're sitting, you'd be sitting really deep in the car, which is not great, because we did say that we want to have space in the rear for, you know, like at minimum a dog. So that's not awesome, but what are you gonna do? I mean, we put in a V8, so we're sticking to it. It's a small V8. It's like a 3.6, so it's not exactly very, very powerful overall. It's not like crazy power, and most of it goes on the ground. Look, we're making almost 500 wheel horse, so that's actually quite good. But nobody likes it because, again, the just the absolute metric ton of torque is just destroying the front wheels. So we'll have to work on that right now. One way that we could fix it is we could add some weight, although that's pretty stupid. Well, not even stupid, just I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to ruin this car, you know? Part of the fun is being able to just absolutely tamper with the amount of traction you get, instead of working with the weight, because again, in real life you would add a lot of weight and that would fix it, but we don't want that. We want a really cool car. We want a cool car that's fast. So if we go in here, go body morph, and we just inch out the rest of what we can in the wheel well, and see what that does. Go into wheels. Oh, there you go, 305s. So how much more is that gonna help? Well, it's a little less sporadic, crazy. We added a little bit of weight, but now we get this jolt of acceleration, which is not great, from 2 to 3, which is actually a normal. This is actually quite normal in a lot of cars. The front force is still pretty crazy. I mean, we're only getting 0.63 Gs, but we're like near 9. So I think in this situation we're gonna have to go all-wheel drive. Like we don't have a choice. Or we could shrink the motor. I think we're gonna keep it for now. How about we up the quality? What is that gonna do? Okay, just about nothing. We got more efficiency, so now we got more wheel spin. So that's not good. What if we spread it out more evenly? No, now we just get a gigantic, just a mountain of torque, and just about nothing happens. And then third to fourth now is just violent. Okay, I fixed that at least. First gear is pretty good, but it's just wheel spin. It's literally just wheel spin. What in real life what people would do is they would drop the amount of PSIs in first, second, and even third. Part of third, you're gonna have to drop the PSIs, and then afterwards you would kick it in. And then here we see some jolts, but we can't really do anything about that. This is weird weight distribution jolt. I can't do anything. The grip, it's strong. It's pretty strong at 1.62. So I think we're gonna have to drop the boost, is what it is. I mean, we put a lump that's just way too powerful, or we could put an all-wheel drive. So let's play with the all-wheel drive. Let's see what that would give us. So if we went back to the drawing board and we choose drive type, and we go into something like an on-demand, maybe even just like a viscous. Let's try a viscous. So the viscous is the simplest one. It's the one that has a clutch. It's basically a clutched in drive line that goes all the way back in the front. In the back. So it's actually really simple. And so the actual added weight is fairly low. And if you want to see it on the car, I gotta take off the chassis. Where's that? Chassis. This one. So it's actually so simple that you can actually just connect them diagonally, and the actual weight loss, like the actual power loss, is only when the transmission and differential are overbeared by the power. And so that's when this piece starts to rotate and go into the rear wheels. Otherwise, it never goes there. It always stays in the front. So that's actually quite good. And you want it that way because if you try to overbear the clutch in the front, it actually overheats. So that's one of the problems with like Golf Rs, for instance. And now, if we look at the actual acceleration, oh my goodness, it jolts up all the way to 1.2. So I think this is the right move. And if we look at the actual cost hasn't really increased at all. So I think that was the winning move, which is to put in a helical, add a bit of weight. Anyways, we were a little underweight compared to other cars these days. And yeah, it looks like we're doing just fine now. And I think we could even lower the front, which would help with a couple of things, including just the steering. But it would also help, for instance, with the amount of steering power you're going to require, because the larger the wheels in the front, the more you have to use the electronics, so it can be pretty heavy on the steering rack, and also the feeling. You get basically no feeling. So keeping it more steady here maybe at like a 265, maybe like something like a Type R, I think that would be pretty good. And then right now we're a little bit inside the wheel well. I actually like that a lot. In the rear, it's like we don't even have a wide body. So I think that's a cool look for now. But we'll look at it closer later. So I'm kind of happy with this acceleration graph, but I'm seeing jolts and stuff. Let's look at the front here. So we're getting a 0 to 60 in 3.6. The drivability, all this stuff is somewhat important. It's kind of like a quick metric, but this stuff tells you more. So if we look at pink, what's pink here? So the weight distribution is completely to the rear. The front grip is fairly good. The acceleration is okay, but what if we change spread a little bit? No, doesn't do anything. What about getting the front a little bit later? Oh yes, that does push it quite a lot. What about if we put it more closer? That way we get on boost faster. Yeah, that is actually good. Okay, so that's one of the advantages of getting large torque V8 is you can do this kind of thing where you get on the boost early in first gear, and it's more fun. You get that added expression of acceleration much earlier. Now here, what I'm seeing is the acceleration tapers off quite early. So I don't even know when we get on boost. Let me look at the motor again. Oops. So we get on boost. We get on boost around 3,000 RPM, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, around 3,000. And we're actually gearbox limited at about 6,000 right at the tail end. So that's not good. But at about 3,200 RPM, that's when the boost really kicks in. So if we keep it always under... Oh, that's right. It only calculates based off of the power. So we're at about 250. Okay, so yeah, we're totally in the power band at about 299. Yeah, we're totally fine. So we could keep the spread quite narrow. If we go... See, now if we go about here, we're like 270. So the boost is kind of kicking in, which is okay. But look, we get this weird jolt of, I think this is power. So we're going to drop it down. And basically what you want to have is you want to have your G's quite high and not a lot of jolts. The jolts are dangerous not for frontline acceleration, but for cornering. For cornering acceleration, it's just not very good to have those jolts. And it's violent. Like you're gonna see it on this graph and think whatever, it's a violent jolt, who cares? But when you actually drive it, it's gonna be just a nightmare. And we don't really care about this like frontline acceleration. Oh wow. I was gonna say we don't really care about like 240 miles per hour top speed, but that did actually help a lot because it kept the spread quite wide. Now the spread is not very good, if you can see. So maybe we should go back to 240, and that keeps it more stable. Okay. And what we could do is just put a speed limiter. We'll just keep it at 210. We don't really care. 210 is just fine. Like you're really never gonna push it higher than that, and we're not really building a car for the top speed. So the problem is when you get a car that needs to go very fast at over 355 kilometers an hour, 210 miles an hour, super fast. The problem is that now your aero and your engine cooling is extremely important because in these high gears, the motor has to remain extremely cool to stay at those operating temperatures at your RPMs. In these lower gears, you're revving out your motor, but you're not keeping that power for that long, so it's fine. So it doesn't really matter. And actually, when you're on the track, what makes the motor so hot is when you fully accelerate. That's why you see a lot of cars, they short shift their car because they're not interested in heating up the motor that much. Now, if we look here, we still have one setting that we can play with, which is always the brake fade. This thing is the most interesting and probably the most satisfying thing to work on, because it's pretty simple. You basically have to increase your brake capacity to be slightly higher than your grip capacity. Just enough that you're not totally overbearing your tires. Because if you overbear your tires, that's when you get full slippage. You don't want that. So like if you're in a range like this, that's actually quite good. You're still suffering from a little bit of brake fade, so let's bring it back up. But here's the problem. Now I'm getting brake fade, and then brake fade, and then on top of that, this line here, the difference between the two here is too wide, and so now I'm getting also brake force that is too strong, which is an insane problem. I would rather have too high rear brake force and then drop it down by basically adding up. See, I still have brake fade. That's crazy. Just get rid of the brake fade. Come on. Okay, so I'm fully rid of the brake fade, and now it's just the rear force that's too strong. And then now in the newer games, what you can do is you can kind of tune it so that the rear end doesn't toe out so much. For instance, I could probably just get the rear tire bigger, and that should affect the actual brake. Let's see here. Still not good. Wow. Too high still. Still too high. Wow. It's like almost as if it doesn't matter what I do. And there you go. Okay, that's actually a good middle ground. Let's bring down the wheel, because I noticed that now my wheels are not the same. Oh wow, just that. Well, let's keep the wheels the same, because the brake fade is not that important in the rear. So we'll keep the brake force quite low. Okay, and there you go. Now it doesn't complain. So there you have it. Now I need to make the whole car, and then we can test out the car. Okay, so after some work, I was able to build this monster right here. This is the Opel Turbo Coupe. It's an upgrade, well, a sequel to the Opel Coupe from the 60s. It still has the beautiful chrome wheels. It's got quad exhaust. I put this quad exhaust now. Can you guess what car that I based the rear end off of? I'll give you 3 guesses in the comments below. We'll play this little game. I'll give you a hint. It looks a lot wider than this. That's your hint. Look online. So some of the features that I put in, so to keep that Opel look, I've put in 2 nostrils in the middle. That's what the Opel Coupe looked like back in the day. I've kept this like McLaren front wing just because we kind of need the aero. And the intercooler is still there, which is kind of cool actually. I'm seeing the wheels kind of move around. Oh yeah, that's right, because I set up my mouse to move the wheels, so that's actually a good feature. Yeah, I like these like beluga type eyes in the front. And then in the rear, I put these quad boomer, or they call boom, exhausts. And if we listen to it, actually sounds pretty good. I don't know if you can hear that, because it sounds like I put down my volume. Hold on. Yeah, my BeamNG is really low. Here. So it's got that cam. It's quite quiet overall. Now, I like the physical hatchness, so I put a real hatch. And basically the hatch would do like a Y. It goes all the way down, all the way like this. Not a Y actually, just like a J, I guess. And then I put dual wings, so I think this would be the first car with dual wings. I thought that was kind of like a cool little gimmick thing. And yeah, I think honestly it looks really cool, and I can't wait to drive it. So let's take off the ESC and see what it does here. It's a really interesting car actually. It's not like it just goes it just breaks that's really what it is. It's a sticky rocket ship, front engine, front drivetrain, which is interesting. I don't think any other car has had that for a V8 with an all-wheel drive system and a manual. And the main issue would be finding a transmission that would work. You just presume that some truck manufacturer would do it, but I don't think they would be. guys enjoyed this episode and have